It's Friday. We're here. We're ready to rock out and render. There's going to be some louder music on today because I need to lock in and render this piece that I'm working on. So if you don't like that, you can go away. But otherwise, yeah, we're going to get into it. It's going to be good. I started this painting yesterday. I can show you kind of some of where we got to with it. But yeah, it was one of those things where I had an idea, started sketching it, just like we were talking about the other day, and then got a bit taken away with the painting, and we got quite far. So I was like, oh shit, okay, let's get on stream tomorrow, and we can lock in and render this and talk about it and all that. And it's Friday, so a bit more chill. You can listen while you're working or whatever. All right. So, as always, old paintings that slap. Today, I have for you this wonderful painting by Jean-Léon Gérôme, and this is The Carpet Merchant. You've more than likely seen Gérôme paintings before. They are masterful works. And a bit like what I was talking about with Laura a few weeks ago on stream. It's like the painting itself on a sort of more abstract level, the way that the canvas is like divided up by the sort of the space and the shapes within it, is kind of just like a very pleasing arrangement of design elements in and of itself. Like if you take out the context of what everything is and you just appreciate the shapes, the interlocking shapes, the patterns, the sizing, the variance of them, the placement, all of those things, it's just quite sort of pleasing in and of itself. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a sort of abstract painting but with real context. And then obviously you bring in the people, the space, the feeling of light, everything, and it just comes together to form a fantastic painting. And I would say all of his paintings are like this. They're really, really, really well put together. He always captures this sense of lighting that is this sort of overcast, like daylight that's coming through, and it's just so like airy and very familiar. It just captures it really well. There's always like an amazing sense of air and space in the paintings, which I really love. And yeah, just like amazing drapery, vibrant colors. Yeah, exactly. Morning, Sarah. Seeing how the carpets and architecture almost work as frames. Exactly. Like it's sort of frames within frames, and they sort of interlock into each other in interesting ways and sort of guide the eye. Again, there is a flow in here that is very thought out, and it's sort of fractal in a way. It's in a way it gets kind of, you have like these shapes, right? But then they get repeated in like smaller and smaller places, and you will get something like this shape is repeated here, but larger, and it's like, in a way, you're seeing like a sort of a fractal. It's just, really, really crazy like that. Yeah, and like, this is kind of like a fractal pattern on the carpet here. So I don't know. There's just something about the paintings that just always feels a bit like, I don't know, infinite in a way. It's just a masterful work, really. And every sort of interaction or like important interaction or something to notice, I feel like is always framed nicely as well. For example, obviously we got this, but then like this guy framed in the door, this guy framed here, this guy in the carpet itself. Like, there's just these really nice, like, vignettes, if you like. And yeah, I love also the sort of the natural gesture that's sort of going on in this sort of conversation. You know, this guy especially. It doesn't feel posed. It almost feels photographic in a way, you know, because the gestures are natural, and the conversation is candid, and it's like a moment. It doesn't feel like a lot of kind of paintings where it's very posed and theatrical and like thought out. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just this just has a different feeling to it, where it's a bit more of a candid moment, and it's sort of, again, just great to look at. So there you go. John Leon Jerome. If you've never seen any of his paintings before, I implore you to type his name into Google right now and just be amazed. They're insane paintings. And as kind of considered as they appear, you know, with the patterning and everything, and the brickwork, there is actually a wonderful like looseness to a lot of it that appears resolved, you know, when you see it at the thing in its whole, but it is very painterly. It's not the tiniest brush noodling for hours, you know. There is actually a lot of painterly expression in here. So there we go. I think that's the longest I've talked about an old painting, the slabs. So that should tell you something. So there we go. Thus concludes Old Paintings That Slap for Friday, stream 52. So what are we painting today, kids? As you know, I'm working on portfolio images right now. So images to update my portfolio to send out to various companies to say, hey, I'm available for work. I can fit within your style. Send me some images to do. So today, well, the focus of the next few days is going to be painting my Magic the Gathering portfolio. So I've done this in the past, I think 8 or 9 years ago, maybe. But those images are old, and they definitely need updating. Well, not even updating. I'm just not going to touch them. But I need to do some new ones. So we are going to carry on working on this today. This is something I started yesterday. I wanted to do a dragon. I've been wanting to paint a dragon for a long time. And MTG is the perfect excuse to do that. And yeah, basically I had this idea knocking around of a storm dragon. I kind of briefly visited this idea. Let me open it up. One second. Let me grab where the sort of an idea and anatomy for this dragon came from, because it was from another painting that I did. Literally stun locked me. It looks insane. Oh, thank you. I'll go through a little bit of the process of this one, because, like I said, this is the rare occasion where I'm just painting rather than going through a process so much. So I did this painting on stream with Materia and an amazing artist called Cookie. You might know him online as Third Cookie. Great artist, insane at painting dragons and insane line work. Should really check him out. But anyway, we did like a dual stream together where we did 2 dragons that were like facing off, and the composition, he did half and I did half. And this was the half that I did on the stream. And I was really into this idea of doing this sort of, sort of worm-esque, worm as in WYRM, style, like storm dragon with sort of goat horns, and just very sharp shapes and stuff like that. So this was, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to repaint this guy. So that was already like formed in my mind, So I wasn't starting from scratch yesterday. I was starting from this idea. So I'll run you a little bit through the process. I've got some of the the whips, if you like, saved in here. So this actually, what did I do first? So first I grabbed that old one, and I would just like stretched it out longer, and I started to like paint over it, because I was thinking maybe I use this pose, and he's like looking up at a storm, and there's a big storm in the background. But I quickly decided against this because I wanted to paint his face, essentially. I wanted to show him off. So I started just using the colors from this and started like just trying to figure out what the main shape of him was going to be. I like this idea of like he's one of these dragons that as he's flying, he's sort of doing that kind of wave motion, because he's like a kind of like a snake body, so he doesn't. It's less like a bird, and it's more like a snake, and he's sort of diving and rising and so on. So I wanted this kind of, this kind of motion where it's like it's kind of a little bit playful in the air, and kind of a bit majestic in a way, to contrast something, and I'll talk about that in a second. So there was that. So when I decided on this, I was like, okay, I started really roughly sketching out. And I was like, I'm going to have lightning in the background, and I have this like swooping motion to him. So this was kind of like the sketch for that. And then what I did is I started playing around with the sketch, warping it a little bit to try and get a little bit more gesture and motion. But I think I ended up staying with this one a bit more, because I liked the initial motion I had. I wanted his legs to feel like they're being pulled along, and his other legs are sort of tucked up here, just to sort of play into that motion. And what I was looking for as well is to try and subtly use the space. So like if you think of his head being slightly off angle here, and then this part of the body, it goes like this, and then as it comes back here, we're just sort of using the space, so he's not just horizontal flat to the plane. He's going back in depth, and there's almost a twist to it. We see the bottom side of him here, which then we don't see it, but then we're going to see a little bit of it here because he's kind of rotated this way. And then we have the spine, that's going to come out and show us this. And I just really wanted to get that kind of fluidity to the motion. And I also chose to do it on this like diagonal, right? Nice. This is the sort of shape that the, MTG card print is. I wanted to use that space, and I also wanted to have this other diagonal in the background being this like lightning strike that's going through, which is going to provide like some of the lighting for him. So that was at that point. I think I've got like some various stages. Yeah, okay, so on top of that sketch here, I started just laying in color. So taking colors from the previous painting that I showed you, and just these are all loose brush strokes, just with a round brush. Okay, just like this. And I do this zoomed out, so I'd be like really zoomed out like this, and I just sort of laying stuff in. And for the most part, I was just trying to figure out the planes, like the planes of his body. Essentially just thinking like, okay, if this is a side plane, this is a bottom plane. And I'm laying that out in color. So I give him a lighter scales on his belly, the blue scales on the side of him, And this just helps me to like lock in the use of Z space, the depth that this guy is going to have. It's very easy for me, at least, to, if I start painting, to unconsciously like twist things to be like flat again. So I need to establish the planes early, especially in this case, because I got quite into this painting, right? And you know, I was like, I could take a step back now and do a drawing and then fill it, you know, do flats, go through the process. But because I'd got to this stage after maybe a couple of hours, and I was really feeling it, I was like, you know, I for the execution of this, for the fact that I want it to feel quite sort of painterly and loose, I don't feel like going back and doing line work and building it up. I feel like I've got enough stuff, enough gesture going on here that, you know, is already helping me. So I decided to just keep painting on top of it. And at various points, I would like turn on older bits. So this is like me painting over the top. And then I'd reestablish, you know, bits that I'd kind of lost with a kind of line drawing, but just on it. Took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do with the sort of second set of shoulders for the wings. So there was a lot of back and forth, just a lot of painting on this, masking through to older bits and so on. So there was a lot of back and forth. But eventually I hit upon this idea where the wing actually starts like above his front leg, and there's sort of like a webbing, you know. And I was thinking about this, you know, if you think about under here, there's like a pectoral maybe, right, under the armor, and that this is kind of the beginnings of the winged bit, and then that goes out into the wing proper, you know, out this way. So once I'd hit on that idea, then I really got into actually painting stuff. And then most of this is just an abstract exercise, right? This is where the graffiti kind of thing comes back into it. I was talking to Laura briefly about this yesterday, but essentially it's like the dragon in and of itself is just the flow of the scales on top of it. So I wasn't necessarily concerned with like the anatomy properly. It was just more like, how can I convey the flow of the surfaces from one thing to another in an interesting way? So like interconnecting surfaces and then giving the eye something to follow again, and creating rhythms. So like you see here, we've got this rhythm that goes this way, which kind of informs the teeth, right? His underbite. I love underbites. But then here we have like a counter to that flow, but it's small, you know, but it gets larger and larger and larger and larger and larger as we go down. So there's like an echoing out. And then as this starts to turn this way, it starts to lead into like this flow on the leg, which describes the forms, right? But it's like the way all of this stuff echoes and leads around is kind of quite pleasing, I find, to the eye. And it's like it makes it so that I'm not really painting scales on a guy. I'm painting an interesting pattern that flows around him, that sort of leads the eye. And because they're sort of scaly in shape, that, you know, it comes across as the scales. But really it's an abstract exercise in like flow and direction, and anything that I'm think is not reading well, I then sort of try and think about the flow of it, and which way that I think it should be sort of flowing and facing, and then try and design my strokes to do that. So a lot of this has just been, like I said, if you think about it up front like this, it's just a abstract flowing pattern, and this is where the whole graffiti thing comes back into it again. It's like designing flow to move the eye through the piece in an interesting way, and that way, like wherever you look on the guy, what I want to achieve with it is like wherever you look, there is going to be a flow that will keep you going around. So if you start looking at his head, you know, maybe you get onto this flow, you get onto this, or you get onto this, or you get onto this, you know, and you just, it keeps you going around like a river. And you know, if you look at some really well painted dragons and such, especially like Tyler Jacobson paints dragons really well, and they've just got a lovely flow to them overall. So, and then the other thing that I'm going to add onto this is because it's going to be a card, right? Well, this not this particular one, but I'm really thinking about the contrast. So the background, I'm going to probably key a little bit lighter so that his silhouette is like really clear, zoomed out. And then we're going to have this nice kind of assembled rim light on him, which is just going to really pick out the top surfaces and really make him punchy. And then the background's just going to be a simple flow of like storm clouds that are just going to help the direction that he's moving in. And we're going to have this like big lightning strike through the back because he's a storm dragon. Doesn't breathe fire. He's all about electricity. So yeah, there you go. That was the rundown of what I was up to yesterday, and the beginning part of the creation of this. And today is just more rendering, keeping that flow going, and just having a bit of fun with it as we go. He isn't on many layers now. I've been flattening him down as I go. Keeping him going. So we'll continue. Epic. I tell you what, it's not often that I get into like the flow like this with a painting from the beginning. Like you've seen me. I will often like strip things back to the line work, the flats, and build it up from there. But in this case, like I said, I got into it. I kind of knew what I wanted from the beginning, and yeah, I just had a really inspired day's painting yesterday. I had no intention of getting this far. But yeah, it just goes to show sometimes the inspiration do hit, and you don't have to rely on the process to get you going. But you know, I had a good head start in as much as I already knew roughly what the design of the dragon was going to be from a previous painting, so I wasn't going in blind, as it were. Now the real test would be, could I copy this in oil paint? Because that'd be so sick. Do this guy as an oil painting. Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm just going to save this out as a copy as well. Just so that if anything happens, I've got a copy of the folder. Give me a sec. You started oil painting. I that's where I started. I learnt to oil paint before I learnt to digital paint. Um, so I haven't oil painted in a number of years, but I have done many oil paintings. Yeah, I can show you some. I'm an oil painter, trained oil painter. Yeah, let me show you. Scrolling through years of photographs. Come on now. Show me the goods. Yeah, oils is fantastic. Oils is fantastic. The guy that I share this studio with, he is a professional oil painter, and his stuff's amazing. I love going into his studio and seeing what he's working on. Come on, man, where are they? Okay. Oil paintings. These this is a self-portrait from back in the day, and this is a friend of mine. Yeah, these are some paintings from my studio that I had, a little oil painting studio. This is a close-up of on this one. And there's a layer on top of everything here. There you go. Another self-portrait. This is another one. This is one of the first oil portraits that I did once I graduated onto color at the atelier. How many years ago is this? This would be about 14 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. Yeah, here's the sofa from the studio. Oh yeah, there's this one. I've still got this one. This one's at home. Oh yeah, I got this one here. It's me standing next to my heater, cold as all hell. So. Oil painting stream. Damn. I would need to really plan that out, but it's possible. possible. It would be sick to paint this. In oil. I think you can start with a small one, do the dragon on a small canvas. Yeah, I actually find like painting bigger though is better for me. Like there's a certain like size of brush that's just really nice to paint with, and like smaller than that is too fiddly, and bigger than that is just so much paint, you know. I like, you know, about a finger width is like the perfect size for me. All right. Where are we at? Oh yeah. So the wing at the back. I was thinking about this last night. This is what I mean about I always solve the problems in the painting when I'm not painting. And last night I was watching the Tour de France, and then I was like, oh yeah, that back wing. Yeah, that's better. It was bothering me. So I'm going to sort of paint back this rim light quite a bit, because I'm going to keep on a separate layer and do its own like very bold shapes with it. So like the light that's on here is basically going to get painted over. I'm just sorting out what that top edge looks like. And just continue with the, you know, the idea of flow, taking the eye on a nice journey. And you know, I've got some like favorite MTG artists that I've looked at a lot over the years, and yo, Rise of Tiamat, thanks for the follow. And the way that they paint certain things is like something that I've stored in my brain. And at least the textures that they have. So I was saying Tyler Jacobson's one of those artists, but another one for this sort of for this brush that I'm using, and the sort of general painterly texture, someone that I really love the work of for MTG is Chase Stone. And especially, okay, so he painted this dragon, which is so sick. This one here, super cool. I'll open this up in Photoshop. But yeah, he's got a really nice way of painting. Look at this flow, so good. And he uses a brush that's like similar to the one that I'm using, and he does these really nice, like, just bony shapes, especially, yeah, this kind of thing. So this is the kind of stuff that I've been looking at. Yeah, love this one. Yeah, it's got great texture, paints amazingly. So, yeah, it's what we got. It's what we've got in my mind, back of my mind. I'll show you this. Look at this. So sick. But yeah, if you see this like flow that then, you know, starts to peel out and gets larger, and then it starts to change into another flow, you know, it starts to come out like this strong, bolder line, and then these like ripply ones that start to come in, you know, and change, and then these flow up like this, and then into this, and then over here, and then this gets kind of spread out. It's just really nice to follow with the eye. It's just very like, very pleasing. And that's what I want in this piece, is to have that like pleasing flow to the eye, so that in and of itself the design just is something that you want to look at, and then like obviously it's cool, it's a dragon or whatever. But same with the rocks in the background here. There's like a sort of a semi-organic, bony sort of flow to it, which is really nice. There you go. Yeah, wow, that's gorgeous. Yeah, check out Chase Stone's work. Is sick, honestly, super sick. About Yeah, originally this guy, I had him without an underbite, but I was like, I gotta represent underbite gang. And something I need to work on as I render this a bit more today as well is like subtle hue variation within here. So in the leg here, I started introducing this little bit of green. This gives it a slight sort of pearlescentiness in the scales, and introduced it here as well. We have this little bit of purple coming in. In here, there's like little bits of green. It gets a little bit desaturated. I'm going to introduce some pinks and stuff. So there's going to be like a very sort of subtle movement of color through it as well, because for the most part it is quite monochromatic, right? It's blues and grays, and you know, that's to keep it simple, but I do want a little bit of pizzazz in the color in there, and it's just going to give the scales that like slightly pearlescent quality to them. What resources have you used that extremely improved your art skills? Your art is sick. Yo, Pichuro, welcome, and thanks for the question. I'm gonna talk over this track by Lorna Shore, but what the resources? I mean, I think the biggest improvement was learning drawing and painting in a structured like atelier manner. You know, it really drills into you form and depicting light essentially, and I think that made the biggest single difference to my art for real. Once I was able to like observationally draw accurately, that really helped me to be able to commit things to memory, and to experience like drawing something and then having to like recall that. I think it was the biggest thing. You know, some people say it's like learning to see. And I would agree with that. It's like once you can observe and document what you're seeing in real life, it opens up a whole new world of you know, mental recall, I guess, that enables you to remember what you're looking at, and reproduce it later on. Your art and music taste is phenomenal. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't think everyone would agree with you. But I am a deathcore fan. I don't know. I'll see if they're on this playlist. But there's a band called Disembodied Tyrant, which is just fantastic. Yeah, they're coming up in a bit. Pichuro, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. I love Lorna Shore. Yeah, great band. I saw them. I saw them in London earlier this year. It was a really good show. Oh, at Alexandra Palace. It was sick. The guy's voice, you're hearing him right now, but Will Ramos is the singer, and his voice is insane. Like he has got mastery of his vocal cords. In like a really alien way. Like when you hear it live and you're just like, how on earth is this guy belting this out like day after day? Yeah, listen, check this out. What about that? That's what this dragon sounds like. Yeah, they have a track called Sun Eater, and when I saw them live on the backdrop behind the stage, they have like the sun. All the lights are off. We got a big video of the sun, and like the moon is eclipsing the sun as the song's like starting, and then as soon as his like vocals hit, it was like the full eclipse, and the crowd was going insane. It was pretty good. I had to like step out. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get killed. But yeah, they put on a great show. But yeah, they're cool. But yeah, when it comes on a bit later, there's a band, the band that I like even more than Lorna Shore, and that's Disembodied Tyrant. I think they're technically just sounds amazing, and it's like much more. I don't know. It's pretty hectic. The guy's got also great vocals, but then just the guitar and the drumming is just excellent as well. Like Lorna Shore's very produced, it's like it's very tight, very like well put together. And Disembodied Tyrant is like that on another level, I think. But yeah, I know I don't usually listen to like this kind of music on the stream, but I was like, it's Friday. I just really want to like render this and lock in. So I'm putting in my lock in tunes. So I'm sorry if it's not really what people want to listen to, but I don't care. More glow and runes. Yeah, let's go. What's up, Cam? How you doing, bruv? Doing good, man. Nice to see you streaming again. Currently wetting the canvas with oils. So glad you're providing background noise. Nice, dude. Get that canvas painted up. Don't want too much contrast there because this is the horn on the other side, so
Pardon me.
doesn't need to be as like punchy, you know. Actually, don't need to go into this much detail. Let's carry on. So I'm thinking with this kind of beard, you know, it's getting a bit of sort of light through the back of it. You know, when you backlight something and you get that sort of glow on the hair. I'm thinking it's a bit like that. Because he's going to have like a strong sort of top backlight from another lightning strike, you know. So it's just, again, to like pick his silhouette out a bit, but I was thinking when the first time I painted this guy that he had like lots of static electricity kind of like going through his beard and stuff. I don't know if I'd add that on here just because if I think about it, card size, it's like that big. You'd never see it. So better to be like bolder, I think, with the just big shapes and silhouette. Not worried too much about tiny things like that. Saying that, I've gone into quite a lot of detail. It's not really detail. Oh no. What is it? Always accidentally turning the rulers on. It's obviously not the end of the world, but it is annoying. Alright, sorry. Let's just wait for it to save. So let's kind of work out what's going on with the back legs here, because I'll show you what the idea was here. I think I just need to like figure out where they're working in space, but I imagine the back leg is kind of something like this. So it's like bent like that in here, and then the other one is like on the other side. We probably don't even see the foot of it really. It's like back there somewhere. Yeah, so that bit doesn't need to be there. Also, just kind of breaks the flow up a little bit. But I do want to indicate that he's got back legs. That's one thing that I do want to indicate. Because he isn't just a worm. I guess the other thing that's possible is like that it's kind of up like this behind the wing, but I don't know if I like that. Let's try some stuff out. You know, as long as we do it on a new layer, it's no problem. So when I'm doing this back here obviously is going to be like quite, It's not very detailed. Okay, it's the value range is much more compressed, and therefore the range of expression is limited. So what I mean is, up here, I have a value range that goes from like this, you know, these really dark parts, so this, all the way up to like really light. Okay, and I've got everything in between, you know, in this range, all these values to play with. And that's what I'm using to describe the forms here, essentially, right? And I'm separating these out into planes. So I'm using these colors to tell you about planes on the leg and on the body. Okay? So I'm switching colors to something different when the plane changes. And I'm not necessarily always using the same color for the planes facing the same direction, but I'm consciously changing planes and changing the color so that no matter what, you start to get an idea of like this form is moving. It has different directions that it's facing. Because it's an organic thing, right? So here, like I'm being conscious that this underside here has a certain value to it. And then I change color on here to give you the other plane. And I have quite a few values up here to do that with. Like I said, there's like maybe 5 or 6 values that I have from my darkest to my lightest in this kind of area. But when we go back, like go back here, or indeed to this back foot here, we shorten this range. The darks are going to get lighter and the lights are going to get darker. So this range now has like 4 values as opposed to 6, or maybe even only has 3 values, distinct values. And this is because I want to show depth, okay? And to do that, I have to drop my value range off. As things get further away, there's more moisture in the air, there's light refracting through that moisture, therefore things appear lighter. So your shadows become closer to that of the sky, and your lights become dimmer. Okay? So this is what's happening here. Whereas the lightest light up here is like this, you see the lightest light back here is that. And therefore the darkest dark back here is really dark, and the darkest dark back here is that. So what I'm looking to do is try and describe this leg plane, but using 3 values. So I've got this value for the top, got this value for the side, and I've got this value for the underside. And I really only have these 3 to play with. So I need to be very planar in the way that I describe things back here. As you can see here, I've got like this plane, this plane, this plane. This plane is that kind of slightly desaturated color. This plane is the sort of the mid gray, and this plane is the light on the top. And these 3 planes I'm using to describe what's happening, because I don't have the luxury of more values to do things with here. I also have to drop the saturation off. So, you know, what we set up here is a visual cue to like understanding what's going on at the back. So when I'm thinking about this leg and this placement of it, I'm actually not really thinking so much about the shape of the leg initially. I am just thinking about those 3 planes and building a shape that has direction to it and form. And once I'm happy with that direction, so in this case, you know, it's describing something like this, you know, with an edge and an edge. Once I'm happy with the direction that that's going, then I can go in and give it a bit more of a sort of a nuance and musculature and stuff, you know, like this has the spike and it has this kind of musculature going on and the forms. That comes after describing the general direction and shape of it. And in this case, that general direction and shape has to be done with less values, a tighter range. So there you go. I know no one asked about that, but that might be good to point out. Yo. Super helpful. Gonna test this out after work today. Yeah, it's a very important thing to understand. And also, it's kind of the thing. Some people are like, "Oh man, this will take ages to render." Right? There's so much going on. He's a big creature and blah blah blah. But it isn't really. Like the main part of the render is this bit up front. Everything else just needs to read as a form in space. Good day, sir, and assorted gentle folk. How's today going? The dragon is looking nice. Hello, Pro4210. And yeah, so Cats, how's today going? Yeah, good, thank you. We're rocking out and rendering. That's what we're doing today. And it's going well. Thank you. How are you doing? Doing well, doing personal work too, I guess. You guess. Nice. Yeah, I thought we could just all lock in and render together today. Interspersed with the odd lesson. But yeah, if you ever find like you're doing a painting and it's getting like messy or really complicated to look at, you're probably using your entire value range all over the picture. And therefore everything becomes very, very detailed. and you're over describing forms, and it becomes super busy, even if the composition wasn't necessarily busy, but you're like describing things with a value range that wouldn't depict them. And in your picture, your value range is limited anyway, and then you got to think about dropping things off as you go further back. A really interesting exercise to do is like severely limit your value range and get an idea of what's possible within a certain range. As an example, in this bunch of sketches that I dumped on here, this exercise is quite interesting. Okay. It takes a little while for your eyes to adjust, but essentially what we're doing is severely limiting the value range so that hang on, give me 1 sec. I just need to reply to something. Okay, sorry. Just had to send a message. Yeah, so in this, the darkest dark is is what? Like this grey here, which you see is very, very much the top of the range, and then the lightest light is white. So you keep those as your values, and just try and see how much you can paint. You will find that you have to make quite a lot of decisions about what you can and can't paint. So here, I can paint like anything that wants to be a deep shadow, and I have basically one other or two others if I'm really subtle with it. So this value and this value between this grey and white. So it's severely limited value range. But what an exercise like this kind of teaches you is how to still depict light and form with a limited range. So you can sort of tell here that there's still like a shininess to like the snake, for example. There's like a wetness to it because I'm still leaving enough of a gap between the next value down and white so that this pops, and I'm reserving my darkest value for literally the darkest things, and I'm being quite sparing with it, so the white still has a chance to do its job. And yeah, it's just a good exercise. It's quite difficult, but it gets you thinking about how you might simplify, or simplify a lighting effect to show something off. Hang on, sorry, give me a sec. Bum. Okay, sorry. I'm back. Sorry about that. Just admin, you know. Sort of feels like it needs a bit of a hip. He's missing his hip. Just need to build in a little bit of... That's it. It just needed like a little bit of an angle here to sort of suggest that he has a kind of a pelvis in there. An angle break to do that. I'm by no means know anything really about animal anatomy. I'm kind of winging it a little bit. I sort of just, and I know this probably does hold true a lot of the time, but I sort of just imagine stretched out human anatomy, and then I just sort of base any creature decisions yeah, I just stretch human anatomy out for the most part. Which, I don't know, if you look at sort of the skeleton of like a big cat or you know, something like that, it's not, and you think about it in that way, it's not too dissimilar. I know there's like some creature artists out there that are going to be like, yo, what the fuck? But I'm not saying it is that. I'm just saying I get away with abstracting it that way. The playlist has taken a severe turn. Alright, I reckon this playlist is going to take another like S curve. Oh, sorry, I didn't see Devonshire on YouTube. Hope you're doing well. I am doing great, thank you. I will keep the YouTube chat open. I'm so bad at it. Yeah, exactly. The playlist is going to take a complete left back to where we were after this. This is a great song, though. Easy to believe. Dum, 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 dum. Alex, how are we going to meet with the people we met once a year now that there's no 101? Well, it's funny you should say that. We were talking about maybe trying to organize some kind of a London museum trip, sketching afternoon, you know, cafe meetup, something. So, yeah, that. Try and organize something like that. Yeah, it'd be good to go and do something, you know, where we can sketch. Maybe go to like the Wallace collection, because it's quite a good one. Lots of armor and stuff, and like people can just go off and draw whatever they want, and then afterwards we go to a pub or something and chat it up. But yeah, we were talking about that the other day actually. So try and get something organized. Hit the save button. Well, let me look at my calendar. because I think August is pretty stacked. Yeah. Yeah, there isn't really a weekend in August that I could do. Um, so maybe September. I need to sit down and think because I got some other things I need to plan out as well. Yeah, it'd be quieter and a bit cooler in London as well at that time. Um, also going home in August. All right, nice. Yeah. Okay. September's good. We'll figure out a date. If it's midweek, I might be able to book it off on the work related instead. Otherwise, nah, it most likely be a weekend. I think. To be honest, not that I've got work on at the moment, but we've got more chance of everyone being able to show up if it's on the weekend. I think. Get my unemployed ass out on the weekend. Don't see you being unemployed for long. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. We shall see. It's not a great time in the industry to be out of work. A lot of uncertainty. Some of those pinks in there. Okay, this is what I meant about the playlist taking a hard left back to where it was. This is there's a band called Worm Shepherd. This song is like quite a sort of an emotional deathcore song, you know. Insane name, yeah, exactly. But this is like heartfelt, you know, as much as this kind of stuff sounds like that to some people. Do you have an interest in working on sci-fi cards like sci-fi monsters, military astronaut style suits? I know a studio I could recommend for you. You know, I'm not adverse to anything per se. I'd prefer to like work in my comfort zone, if I'm honest. It's better for better results for everyone, client and myself, you know. And I'm not like not necessarily known for military astronaut style hard surface stuff, you know. Should we have a bit of webbing in these, you reckon? Let's have a look. No. Nah. Don't like it. What did I tell you? Emotional track. Yeah, the Snake Witch. For something like this as well, it's like you can drop the detail off in places. You just need to show it in others. And like mostly where I show the detail is either close to the camera or in the highlight, or at least the transition between the lightest light and what's next to it. So I don't need to go into detail like in other places. I can sort of show it in a select few places, and your eye will kind of pick up on the texture elsewhere and extrapolate detail. And that way you don't have to paint 2 million scales. You just have to have like a believable texture in the places that are not detailed, and then you need to have like just a very clear showing of detail in the detailed areas, and your eye will kind of extrapolate the rest. So all I'm really doing elsewhere is just guiding the form, like showing you which way it's going, and then letting these little areas of detail speak for areas like this, and so on. And that way, yeah, you're not painting like this level of detail all the way around the piece, because that would take forever. It also wouldn't look very good, because the way that our eye sees things, we don't see everything in 100% detail. We only see detail where we look, okay? And then our periphery is just all blur. So what I'm doing here is I'm detailing out where I want you to look, and I'm letting the rest of it blur naturally by being undetailed. And that gives you the illusion of depth, because it's mimicking the way that you actually see. Whereas if you detail the whole thing all the way over, because it's a flat image, even if I look here, this will still be quite detailed in my periphery. Like the perception of detail will be there because it's actually there. It doesn't drop off with depth or anything like that. So it's you're painting to mimic the way the eye works, so that the painting has a naturalistic feeling to it. Otherwise, it can feel very overly detailed in a way that real life doesn't. This is Disembodied Tyrant, by the way, for Rise of Tiamat. This is the band I was talking about earlier. Toki Toka, thanks for the follow. Are you a concept artist or an illustrator? Do you know, I would call myself an illustrator. I haven't... I don't do design a lot of the time, you know. It's my preference is illustration for sure. I did start as a concept artist, however. So that some of those skills are in there. But the illustration ones are the more practiced, for sure. Definitely up my alley. Vocals and the instruments are amazing. Yeah, you should check them out. Should really check them out. They have maybe should have looked at your description before. Hey, don't worry. Ask away. I'm all about the questions, man. Yeah, Rise of Tiamat. They have an EP with another band called Synestia, which you probably like, and it's called the Poetic Edda. And I think it's 4 tracks, but all of them are insane. They're so good. Do you work in the industry? I know it's really hard nowadays. It's kind of plugged. Yeah, I'm currently looking for work. But yeah, I've been working in games for over 10 years. 13 years, I think. Yeah. I mean, because I haven't been looking for work for so long, like, I hadn't really, like, kept my portfolio super up to date. You know, I've been doing stuff on stream and a little bit of stuff here and there, but I didn't have any, like, super new pieces. And while I could just use my current portfolio to sort of shop around, I felt like I really wanted to just make some new stuff, you know? And just I guess show more of the range of stuff that I can do, you know. This, for example, very different from, you know, the Lorcana fan art that I was painting, for example, in terms of like execution and painted look. But yeah, I do have a bit of versatility like that. I'm able to. There's a few styles that I can paint in, and I can switch between them quite easily, you know. I saw you said this piece is for your portfolio. I don't know if it's too personal, but how do you keep up with rent when you don't find anything as an artist if you don't do merch and you're not a big content creator? Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. You know, I have just been saving for the longest time. So I've saved up money for the eventuality of you know, the situation that I'm currently in, because, you know, for a few years now there's been lots of layoffs in the industry and you know, all of that. And so yeah, I have been saving a buffer zone, let's say, so that in this time off that I have, you know, I can spend time updating my portfolio, painting, streaming, you know, doing smaller jobs, you know, until something comes along. So I have time in the form of a buffer zone. Not loads of time, but I do have some time in which I can, you know, work on my skills and work on the things that I like to do, and hopefully I can find something to get onto that gives me a bit more long-term security. But to be honest, like, I've been freelance for like 9 years now, and you get used to a certain level of like insecurity as a freelancer. You know, you don't have holiday days, you don't have sick days, like paid holiday days, paid sick days a lot of the time. So you've always got to be quite careful about money, and you know, just save as much as you can. Yeah, used to saving and being careful. Yeah, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like super good at saving or anything like that. And I definitely like splurge out on purchases sometimes, but for the most part, I try and keep a lid on that stuff, and you know, will live within my means. I don't need a lot. You know, I'm in a fortunate position. But yeah, I know a lot of people out of work at the moment. It's a scary time in the industry. You know, I think it will pick up again. I think, you know, we are just at a sort of a transitionary period. But yeah, I think things will pick up again, and I think we will see like more and more smaller projects coming into play, smaller games and so on, that are going to be really interesting. Not going to make any predictions about AI. I honestly have no idea, but I think it's going to have less of an impact over time. Not so much, I think, movies, special effects, and design will definitely have it a lot. At the moment, I don't really see how useful it's going to be in illustration for anything other than like major companies that have a lot of stuff to train their own AI on. But you know, I don't see it having like a massive effect on illustration right now. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Like I said, I don't have any predictions on it. I also am done talking about it, so. Something in the lines of your enemy. Okay, save. Save. I'm just going to flick the kettle on. I'll be 2 minutes. Yo, we're back. Sorry, I just had to make a very important cup of tea. You know how it is. You know how it is. Oh, hang on. Have I disconnected? Hang on, is Twitch chat working? Looks like Twitch chat has disconnected. Interesting. Yeah, it looks like I've lost Twitch chat for now. I don't know what's going on here. Let me try. Yeah, I've lost Twitch chat for the moment. I'll have to wait until it comes back. I don't really know what's going on there. I can't do nothing about it. All right, thanks. I think we're back. Yeah, they're okay. Hello, welcome back to Twitch chat. We are back. Yes, indeed. All right, nice. So, yeah, as I was going to say, I've got about 50 minutes left today before I have to peace out. So we're gonna keep cracking on with this. Yeah, let's look at this back wing, because at the moment it is flat as all flat could be. Wake up. Actually... Okay, lock off. Yeah, this is a band I've listened to for years. Like, it's basically metal without lyrics. Sort of prog metal, I guess. And they're called Russian Circles, and they are really good. Like, just... I think it's just 3 dudes. And they make hella noise. Pasternak, thanks for the follow. What's up, dude? What's up, my G? Don't know. Don't know. All right, let's think about this really strong edge light. We'll keep it on a separate layer. I know, because I'm thinking of this as like a card illustration. I wouldn't necessarily normally put this strong of a edge light on this if it wasn't a card thing. But in printed, this silhouette will hold up quite nicely. I think I might even like slightly lighten the background a bit more, but from a distance, the silhouette is quite strong, right? And printed, all of this close values will be even closer, so it will kind of resolve up to being a lot tighter value range on the inside. But that does mean that then it's also going to sort of mesh with the background quite a bit because it's all very similar colors. So I'm thinking on here that I would put this like stronger rim light on it, as if like one of these lightning strikes is kind of almost like camera flashing him as it goes past. And this is just a nice high contrast pop, so that silhouette and his body against the sky is just popped out that extra bit more. And it also is going to like help focus the attention a bit more on its top half. But like I said, it's something that I wouldn't necessarily do if this was just going to be like remain a digital painting. Do you know what I mean? It's just me thinking about it as a card a bit more. Just giving it that bit of like definition and pop, And obviously this kind of stuff's really fun to paint into a piece. Who doesn't love a rim light? I think what's important about the rim light here as well is that it is an assembled light. What I mean by that is that the light shape flows together to form like one larger impression of the light, rather than being too broken up into like separate little highlights everywhere. Because you could go and hit like the edge of lots of scales like this, right, all the way along. But it's going to, if you think again about it being small, all of that detail is just going to become noise, and it's going to break up the impression of the light. So if you can assemble the light, something like this, where it is essentially one shape, right? It has cut-ins to it, but all of this belongs to one flat value. And this assembled version of the rim light is going to give a much stronger impression from distance. And stylistically, it keeps it in the realm of like slightly stylized as well, which it's just something I like. But when you're assembling lights though into a more sort of graphic read like that, you need to make sure that the shape itself is interesting. So, when I was talking about graffiti and such, you want to make sure that the shape has flow. So don't just like rim light something like this, where it's the same thickness all the way around. It becomes very boring and it becomes an outline. You want to go from thick to thin. You want to change direction in interesting ways. Sometimes you want to have a bit of contrast, where you go from like, sharp to curved. but you want to let the eye flow through the shape. You're trying to tell a visual story about the form and its flow in space. So, you know, as all of this flows together, this light shape needs to be interesting as well. So it has like thinner bits, thicker bits. It has a little bit of detail, but then it goes simple again. You know, it can have soft edges, hard edges, etc. But it should be a journey for the eye. It should continue the energy of the piece, you know. So up here I'm breaking the shape up a little bit because I want the teeth to feel like a bit gnarled, a bit sort of, you know, broken up. So we can break the light shape up and that will give that a bit of noise, and that should help give that impression a bit. So yeah, I'm just giving it a bit of visual interest along its edge. Oh yeah, we still need to paint that. Still quite a bit to do on this book. I'm just putting a little bit of like pink into this so that it gives that slight indication that these scales are like in the right light. Got a bit of depth to their colouring, maybe like slightly pearlescent-y. Okay, so what do we still need to paint here? The wings, the tail. Hang on, this song annoys me a little bit. Yeah, so we got the wing, the tail, the clouds, all the clouds, yeah. I've got these other clouds that kind of go in front a little bit that are going to kind of rush past. Just give it a bit of movement, but not get too involved with the silhouette. And yeah, we got to paint the lightning. All right, so there's loads to do. There's probably a whole nother stream's worth of stuff to do on this. So have a look at it upside down for a sec. Yeah, the webbing on the back. Yeah. Let's have a look. Let's do this with a noisy airbrush. Cool. Yeah, I like him. I like him. If I was going like really detailed as well, you could do like little, you know, but we're not going that crazy. Just little like veins in there that are. That'd be pretty sick. But yeah, we're not going that detailed. Trying to keep it painterly. Could have what the hell is this song? YouTube playlists serving me up some some really soft Linkin Park. Okay, here we go. This is a good Russian Circles track. Yeah, have a little bit of a. He's like. He's got so much static electricity from his beard, and he's just like flying in to touch someone on the shoulder and give them the shock of their life. I'm not gonna keep that, but you know what I mean. It's kind of cool, but bye. All right, let's do his little beard. Little beard. Uh. Yo. So this is what we can do in the last 20 minutes today. What's the name of this dragon? You know, at the moment I've called him like Howling Stormkite, but I kind of want to call him like, you know, let's say his name is Darren, right? It'll be like Darren Howling Stormkite. But I want him to have like a name. So when you hear it, you're like, oh shit. Yeah, I want him to have like, a sort of a name that goes hard, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like Vel'Thos. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like Drakthar or something. Hey, yo, Tina. How you doing? Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. And hello. How you doing? Tina, we're trying to come up with a name for this dragon. What's his dragon name? He needs something. It's like something. It's got to be something hench, you know. You know, a legendary name. If you had to choose, what would he be? The dragon of lightning? He's lightning. He's lightning for sure. He's lightning, but he's kind of a brute, you know? He's got this like underbite. He's very old, but he's just like, he's not super intelligent. Do you know what I mean? He's just like, he's just a fucking unit. He just brings insane storms with him, and it's just like, just a menace. Yeah. He's a beast. Yeah, for sure. I'm talking like, you know, imagine you're on a ship, like on a wooden galleon, and they're like sailing, and like the waves are starting to pick up, and they're aware that a storm's coming, but it's okay. They sail in storms all the time. But then like off in the distance, they start to see like these bigger clouds forming, and all the old heads on the boat are just like starting to freak out because they know the tales of him, you know, and they're like, it's the fucking Stormbringer, you know, and he just comes dipping out of the clouds like lightning, just absolute menace. Droneth. Yeah, that's on the right. The I think it needs some like it needs like a something pointy about it. Like if he added a K, so it was like Droknath, or like, do you know what I mean? It's got to have something like gritty about it. Yeah, letter Z for lightning as well. Hiya. This is the BBC radio? No. No? Just sing the songs here. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Crazy. The postman just walked in, didn't knock on the door. He was like, "Is this BBC radio?" Thanks, man. What are you talking about? That's hang on. Yeah, postman still does. Yeah, exactly. He literally just opened the door and walked in, and he was like, "Hello, is this BBC Radio?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Okay." And I just put the package down, take a picture. I didn't even have a package delivered, so I just went and gave it to my neighbor. Dude's powerful enough, should be named after the postman. Yeah, exactly. She's called Derek. Derek, howling stormkite. But like, imagine if you were BBC Radio and that happened live. Yeah, exactly. I looked up the Greek for thunderbolt. Keranos. How does Keranox sound? Yeah, Keranox. Yeah, I like that. Keranox. Keranox, howling stormkite. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I do like that. I like the connection to I like the connection to it as well, to Greek. Tell him he might as well make yourself some tea. Yeah, exactly. Are you working on a studio environment? Do you mean, am I working in a studio? I'm working in my own studio currently. Yeah. The screaming tempest, an occasional man. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you can imagine this guy just dipping out of the clouds, like dipping out of the storm clouds above like a ship at sea, and then just being like, "Oh fuck." I meant like a building full of smaller studio spaces. I don't know what the name. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's 5 studios in here. Yeah, it's just like a smaller. Yeah, I also don't know what you call it. It's just a studio building. Yeah, exactly. So there's like a front door, but there's some other businesses here. They get like a lot of deliveries because they're like a mail order thing. So there's constantly like someone coming delivering stuff. But because my door is like closest to the front door, I think sometimes they can't be bothered to go and find the actual room. And that guy in particular, that postman, he just always walks in, regardless. Like I've been in meetings before, and he walks in. I'm just like, stop it. Tarmo, what's up? Thanks for the follow. Alright, we're going to put on the song that we started with. New Russian Circles track. Yo, where's it gone? Disappeared off my playlist. What are we doing? Gonna search for the track. And then, yeah, this will be the last track, so we've got about five minutes left. And then I gotta go. Unfortunately, I have got a big cycle planned, and I'm going to my mum's place for a barbecue. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, we'll have this last track to play us out. Nox is also the word for night in Latin, so there you go. Oh damn, that Keranox. Yeah, okay. Keranox, howling storm kite. There it is. And this can be his track. This is the horns from the boat sounding. And they're all like looking in the distance at the storm clouds. Oh shit. And this guy's like big enough that he doesn't really care about the boat on the sea. He's just ripping across the ocean with the storm following him. It's just... He's not even paying attention to the boat, you know. He's just flying above it. Yeah. Or they're like, it's a sky pirate, kind of like a sky merchant ship. When they're like flying on a treacherous kind of like stretch of sky that's known for storms and pirates. And then it's like Kiranox approaches. And they're all like, fuck. Hang on. Sorry, some dumbass dog outside. barking. Dog sent Murphy wild. Yeah, sorry. So, let's turn this down there. Good track. Russian Circles. Check them out. Yeah, so we will do another stream probably on Monday on this guy, because there's definitely a few more hours of painting that needs to be done here. The main like body of him is kind of there, but the tail needs some work. The wings need a bit of work. This back foot just needs tidying up a little bit. But then the background needs a bit of work. I need to paint the clouds, paint the lightning, all of that jazz. So there's definitely another few hours on stream worth of painting to do to finish this guy up. So we will do that on probably Monday. And then I'm going to have a think about what the next card in the Magic the Gathering portfolio is going to be. I think I want to do some kind of spell card. But I'll have a think about what that's going to be, and then we'll hopefully we'll do that on stream, or at least I'll try and start it off stream so I know what I'm doing, and then come on stream and continue with it. But yeah, that'll be the plan for next week. I'm just gonna stream at the moment, like when I'm free, rather than on a schedule, or like when I'm doing a painting and it makes sense for me to do so. I think I because I'm like trying to come up with images for a portfolio, I'm gonna need to kind of concentrate and start those off well. But then when I've got to a point where I'm comfortable with it and I'm just rendering, then I'll come on stream and I'll paint and hang out and stuff. But yeah, it won't be on a schedule because I don't know what's going to be going on day by day and so on. So yeah, sorry about that part. But yeah, anyway, the past streams are always there on the YouTube. This one will be up there as soon as I click go offline. But like all the past streams are on there. There's 52 episodes of the stream. They're all on there without music, so you can just put your own music on as well. I think actually they don't all not have music. The last 30 or so don't have music, but the first 20 maybe do. Either way, yeah, enjoy yourselves. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. It's been a fun one. And yeah, thanks for watching me paint Kiranox, the Howling Storm Kite. Yeah. Peace out. Have a good one. I'll catch you next week. Cheers, guys. Goodbye now.